Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Delos Santos and here are today's top stories. Despite risks from soaring prices and a possible surge in COVID-19 infections, the Bangko Sentral is confident that the economy will sustain its recovery. Another rollback in pump prices takes effect today. This marks the third consecutive week of price cuts for fuel products. Status quo, President Bongbong Marcos retains the COVID-19 alert level system set by the previous administration. And can businesses refuse to accept stapled polymark banknotes? The Bangko Sentral says these bills are a legal tender and should be honored in transactions. We begin our broadcast with the Bangko Sentral expressing confidence that the domestic economy will sustain its recovery amid risk from soaring prices and the possibility of a fresh surge in COVID-19 cases. BSP Governor Felipe Medalla says private consumption has already surpassed pre-pandemic levels and is continuing to grow as the economy further opens up. Recall that GDP expanded by a better than expected 8.3% in the first quarter. Despite this rosy outlook, Medalla acknowledges the risk from elevated inflation as well as a possible reimposition of restrictions to curb a surge in COVID-19 infections. Medalla says the Bangko Sentral will remain vigilant against possible spikes in financial stability. Here's a reprieve for consumers amid soaring prices. Another oil price rollback takes effect today, marking the third straight week of price cuts. Gasoline prices are down by 5 pesos per liter, while diesel prices have dropped by 2 pesos per liter. Some oil companies including Metro Oil, Shell, Petron, Sea Oil, Caltex, and Flying V are also implementing a rollback for kerosene prices at 70 centavos per liter. Meanwhile, preparations are still underway for President Bongbong Marcos' first State of the Nation address on July 25. The event's director will be Paul Soriano, a supporter of the president, while a group from Ilocos Norte will be singing the national anthem. Invitations have been sent out to the around 1,300 people expected to attend the SONA. On Facebook, the president also invited Filipinos to listen in as he will discuss his key policies and priorities as the country's 17th chief executive. Some 21,000 personnel will be deployed to ensure the event's security. Health protocols will also be strictly enforced at the Batasan Pambansa, and guests are required to undergo RT-PCR testing 48 hours before the event.
Magsa-start kami ng semi-lockdown by tomorrow. Limited na yung magiging access muna ng mga papasok sa house. At the same time yung pasok ng mga only essential personnel lang muna ang papapasukin natin sa house. Ang total lockdown will be on either Thursday or Friday.
Now, the private sector will be all ears on July 25 as they hope to hear a more concrete policy direction from the president. To find out what's on their wish list, we have George Barcelon, president of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industries. George, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Jess and Danie. Good morning.
All right.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Give us an idea this time. What do you want to hear from the president in his first State of the Nation address? What's on your wish list, especially when it comes to priority legislations or economic measures?
Well, first of all, we know that the president is holding as well is the in charge of the agriculture portfolio. So we'd like to see what's the roadmap for this in view of our issue on the food supply. We know very well that the food commodity prices been going up. Primarily is because of external factor and also because of the supply chain. So that is top of mind on the agriculture side. The other thing that is of concern is the inflation that we're facing. Again, this is brought by international cost push impact. But I think DTI, we haven't heard too much from DTI about the increase in prices in food commodity and related grocery items. I think this has to be addressed in view that the salary of the working people may not be able to cover it. The other item that we'd like to get a direction is now that we have a Secretary of Energy, Popo Lotilla, that we can have a roadmap on the energy situation, and I hope that the President will give push for the more grid to be installed, so that areas where there's oversupply of power, the power can be redirected to areas that needs power. So those are some of the items that I think should be on top of mind for the President.
Sir, these are all items that might take a long time to achieve, no? So even the agricultural supply side issue, as well as the energy issue, of course, these are things that will be a roadmap, as you mentioned. But what do you want to hear from the SONA with regard to short-term things that need to be achieved in the agri and energy sector to fight the inflation at the moment, sir?
Well, short-term wise, of course, the travel and leisure business is starting to open up. We're seeing our local tourism business picked up, and we've been reading about the increase in tourism in our ASEAN neighbors. We're lagging behind, and I hope this is considered a low-hanging fruits, travel and leisure, and the government should give focus to this. No? Again, this is it not only create jobs, but it's a foreign currency earner. We are, as of 2019, prior to the COVID pandemic, we are, I think, the fourth in the ASEAN. Of course, we have the biggest in Thailand, which is almost 40 million, and Vietnam, which is about, I believe, 26 or 27 million. Philippines, we have about 8 to 9 million. So there's still an upside for us to really attract tourists to visit our country and help generate more economic activity on the ground.
Now, Sir George, earlier you were mentioning about the need for an energy roadmap here, especially with the appointment of a secretary or the nomination of Secretary Lotilla. In regards to that point, how have business conditions deteriorated, especially when we're talking about increases in energy costs, and not to mention logistical costs as well, and even supply gaps? How much has cost of doing business increased here in the country?
Well, on the energy side and transport, we have already seen an increase of 30%. Of course, we're happy to note that the gasoline and diesel prices has rolled down a bit. This is a good sign, but it may not be sustainable because it's beyond our control. No? Basically, this depends on the geopolitical situation between Russia and Ukraine. But having said that, the increase on transport, and especially in the agriculture, one of the impact is the increase in urea, in fertilizer. I've been talking to people in the agri business, and they said they've been quite concerned because definitely this increase will be passed on to the consumer. So energy-wise, in the northern Luzon, there's a bit of concern because our water level in our dam has been critical, and last couple of months we have a couple of yellow alert. Okay, but in the base load power generation in Mindanao is quite high. It's more than what they need, and I think if there's more grid connectivity, so that the power can be channeled to where it's needed, and that would help. And I think that can be immediately given the mandate by the president. That can be immediately done by the national grid.
Sir, let's shift over towards the weakness of the peso. No, the weakest we've seen in 2 decades, which may bode well for remittances, may bode well for exporters. Sir, what's the net effect on the exporters? Because even as, of course, that would increase their inflows, it may also, the weakness of the peso may also has an impact on the importing parts that they need to do as well to be able to create such products. For example, semiconductors. Is the net effect positive, or is it still tilted towards the downside?
The net effect, Danie, on the exporters, no? I think because a lot of our exporters are their components on the raw material are imported, so that more or less cancels out. No? But
Okay.
it's still beneficial that what they'll be receiving is in dollar, and the labor cost and all the overhead, no, is in peso. So there's a plus to exporters. Of course, ang malaking plus talaga is for the OFW. Ang remittance nila translate to about, as of now, it's almost like a 9% increase in remittances converted to peso. Okay. But the downside on the exporters also is their shipping cost.
Okay.
There's the shipping cost has gone up quite a bit, and these are all dollar denominated. So this is something that will affect also the overall performance of exporters.
Okay, so it's not completely clear there whether it's completely beneficial then to exporters the weak peso, but as you mentioned, for remittances that could be a boon. Sir, your reaction or the chamber's reaction to the infra push hitting a roadblock with these 3 China deals hitting a snag, sir? Is this something that was expected? Is this something that might spell more delays in investors from foreign countries coming in?
Danie, you're referring to the 3 projects, infrastructure projects that are supposed to be financed by the Chinese government.
Correct, sir. Yes.
Okay. Well, I think from what I've read that the cancellation of these projects really was also on the delay in due diligence. Okay, on I believe on both sides.
Okay.
We're in the government, and in view of what is happening now, I think interest rates has gone up. Even before then, there was some question as the high interest rate that is being charged to these projects. So it's worth studying, but the need of this infrastructure, the 3 projects, is still there.
Okay.
So I would like to think that the government, the Department of Public Works, would, when given the time and given to make due diligence, they will reopen and restudy where we can get the financing for these 3 projects.
Okay,
so hopefully isolated case siya for the meantime.
Now,
Yes.
lastly, before we let you go, Sir George, last week we were together in a forum. You mentioned that, if we are to reach our growth targets for the year, then we would have to resume face-to-face classes this year. But the Department of Education said that's going to happen only by November. Is that going to be a bit too late here? Would you have wanted full face-to-face classes to resume as early as August?
Well, I would take the position of being a bit cautious on the fact that I thought that they given enough time to work this out. But if there are more, if November is a date wherein they can properly manage, coordinate with local government, with Department of Education, and also the schools on how to start our on-premise study. My take is that sana man they can start gradually, August, na hindi naman lahat at the same time. Okay, so we can do phasing. Okay, we can do phasing in some areas. They can start face-to-face already. And I'm sure that we can the Department of Education under Vice President Sara and with the local government under Secretary Ben-Hur, they should start coordinating with the institutions, both public and private, in education. This is very much like how we opened the business before during the high COVID surges. We did it by granularity. And I think this can apply here in education. The more communications with the local government, the earlier we open school, the better it is. Okay. And I think the Department of Transportation is cognizant of the fact that once schools open, you would be adding in NCR probably another almost close to 10 million people that needs mobility. So that has to be addressed also. Baka mapiglaan and then you have all of this severe congestion, which is
Traffic na naman.
So all of the parties must be really preparing for the school opening. maybe not all at the same time, but maybe, I mean,
In phases.
I would like to think that we can start certain areas in August, no? And yung November, yan ang pinaka-extreme case
Okay.
na kulang na marami mga preparation.
All right. Well, we need to start somewhere at some point, especially to bring back the children to the classrooms. Maraming salamat po. That was, of course, George Barcelon, PCCI President. Thank you, sir.
Now, pausing for a quick break, but coming right up after that. Foreign loans approved by the Bangko Sentral jumps by 26% in the second quarter. More of that and other stories when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us. And you're still watching Business World Live here on One News. I'm Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel.
Now, President Marcos has decided to retain the current COVID-19 alert level system for the time being, even though he is eyeing to reclassify health restrictions. Following the President's meeting with DOH Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Barrera on Monday, the President said he wants restrictions to be more compatible with current milder strains that are dominant in the country. He said the alert level could also be adjusted or improved if more Filipinos get their booster shots. Health authorities said they could come up with a new alert level classification by mid-August.
Now, the 2023 budget, as well as increasing food production, took center stage. That's during the President's meeting with the officials of the Agriculture Department. Now, Agriculture Undersecretary Christine Evangelista said President Marcos Jr., who also serves as the concurrent Agriculture Chief, ordered them to strengthen the production of palay and vegetables. The President also directed the department to create a farm-to-market road master plan to promote food security. Evangelista added that during the meeting, the DA also got to present their planned programs to the Budget Department.
Right now, ma'am, there is a very thorough assessment of the programs that DA already has, because we have to see which one of them actually work, which one has to be tweaked, and which one needs further consultation with the stakeholders. So yan po ang mga utos din po ng ating mahal na Presidente, so that we can come up with programs, again, based on sa thrust, increasing production.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says the Philippines needs to import about 3.1 million metric tons of rice to keep up with the demand. The USDA projects that the country will have to rely on rice imports until next year. But our country's Agriculture Department says the Philippines only needs to import up to 2.3 million metric tons of rice for this year.
External borrowings approved by the central bank jumped to $3.5 billion in the second quarter. That's 26% higher than the $2.8 billion loans approved in the same period last year. But quarter-on-quarter, foreign loans dropped by 26% from the $2.8 billion in the first quarter. The funds were used for the country's ongoing pandemic response as well as major infrastructure projects.
Now, the country's Climate Change Commission says the Philippines and Germany are collaborating to develop policies that will promote science-based climate planning. Now, the Commission and its counterparts from other countries recently met with German officials and experts to discuss German approaches to reducing carbon emissions and its goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The Commission notes that Germany has set a target of reducing greenhouse gases by 80% by 2045 with renewable energy and energy efficiency.
We now know that it's okay to fold our 1,000 peso polymer bills, as this could still be accepted. But what if our banknotes were stapled? While the central bank says that although stapling of bills are discouraged, stapled banknotes could still be used and accepted as payment. The Bangko Sentral notes that the new polymer bill is still under test circulation, so they can assess its lifespan. They also aim to find out if it's difficult to counterfeit given its new security features.
Ito pong pag-circulate natin ng polymer bills ay isang test circulation. Gusto po nating malaman kung yung mga benepisyo na na-report ng ibang mga bansa tulad ng Canada, tulad ng United Kingdom, tulad ng Australia, na yung polymer bills ay mas matibay, mas mahabang buhay, 2 to 5 times the life of a paper banknote, ang sabi nila. Pangalawa, gusto nating malaman kung talagang mas mahirap i-counterfeit ang mga bills na ito dahil napakarami pong security features.
And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. But don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
Now, as we go, Dan, just when we were poised to rebound, some concerning announcements from a tech giant rattles the open. Tell us more.
Exactly that, Jess. So yesterday we were already, following the heels of Wall Street, having rebounded. But take a look at how Wall Street performed overnight. The S&P 500 down by 0.8%. The Dow Jones as well, and it does seem to be, the case that it has spilled over again to the Philippine bourse. We're down by 9 points, so that's around. Let me check, 0.14% to 6259.73. Now, as you mentioned, there is, some big issues that are going on over in the US. There was Apple. They did mention that they plan to slow down hiring and spending. And this is a big, announcement because it does illustrate how they are seeing that the Fed rate hikes might immediately have an impact on consumer spending and on some tech players already like Apple. Immediately that impacted the open, and corporate earnings are now being closely watched over in the US. And of course, how is that going to be dripping over here? Another thing interesting though, Jess, that might bode well for us is crude dipping below 100 a barrel. And this, according to Iraq's energy minister, that might stay there for quite some time. Now, let's take a quick peek at our movers here. You can see, I'll pull back out the one-day chart for you. We're about 30 minutes into the trading day. Of course, we're going to be watching very closely on the big movers of yesterday, such as Ayala Land, it still seems it actually went the other way after rising around 10% yesterday. It's now pulling back a touch by 0.8%, and you can see quite a mix of different players here, and no real direction because we do still have quite some that are pulling the bourse upwards, like ICTSI, Mega World, and LTG. And finally, just one stock to watch, and that is ABS-CBN, even as it is opening flattish this morning, unchanged at 8 pesos and 85 centavos. This as the Philippine Stock Exchange yesterday said that it imposed sanctions on ABS-CBN for failure to comply with at least 5 provisions of Article 6 of the Consolidated Listing and violating Section 1. Essentially, they are saying that ABS-CBN did not comply with the disclosure of specific material issues that might have impacted also their finances. So ABS-CBN want to watch there, and their response on this issue with the local bourse, we will be watching out for that soon enough, Jess.
And that's it for today, July 19, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.